tonight's first opening theme is Round Zero, and it has a good beat, but what it's set to is nonsensical. Why are they on a soundstage just swinging weapons around? Why are they immersed in floodlights? A question I ask of this series overall. This show has horrible lighting choices, with it always immersed in lens flare or backlights of some form. Why do they constantly put the characters up against some type of lighting background so it covers sight of them? Hell, the floodlights instantly glare into the camera, which blinds everything in the show. On top of my sensitive hearing, I am extremely light sensitive to the point I'm legally blind if I don't wear sunglasses outdoors during the day. Do you have any idea how horrible it makes the series to even watch? The first opening really is a microcosm of the problems of the early show in a lot of ways. Lights and flashing and brilliance signifying nothing. And worse, it goes back to a long-held critique I've had of Kamen Rider openings. The only dynamic shot we get of them is them biking that doesn't tell us anything about anything. Not relating one significant detail about the show besides one of the characters really liking milk as he's drinking in the opening. Why? Just why? I mean, I do like the song, but it's just a bad opening. So bad, they commissioned another one that is almost universally loved in comparison. Elements by Rider Chips is the second theme introduced after the mid-series retool, beginning with episode 31, and is far better from both the thematic and content regard, actually having a lit environment, and the visuals actually depicting the strain their jobs as riders impose on them. It's still kind of terrible, but at least the song is better at carrying things. The series opens on us already getting our ride on, with Kamen Rider Blade and his companion, Kamen Rider Garen, doing their jobs in fighting the monsters of the series, the Undead, with the support team directing them to their locations. This one being a bat undead weak to sunlight. Because of course they do this cliche. However, the cinematography of this, like Agito, is ridiculously obnoxious, with its massive use of shaky cam, strobe lighting effects, and rapid cutting, and thus it makes it hard to watch. Blade used tackle! It wasn't very effective. Garen's attacks, however, are triggering the monster's lost condition and sealing it into their arsenal, the Rider cards. Garen, a man named Tachibana, chewing out the newer Blade, named Kazuma Kanzaki. Amaina.
やっぱり一流だよな、橘さんは。
However, as they go to move on, Kanzaki is assaulted by this obnoxious reporter named Kotaro Shirai, who intentionally put himself in danger against the undead as he's been tracking Blade and Garen's activities fighting against them, which is revealed to be funded by the secret organization BORD, the Board of Archaeological Research Department. It is later revealed BORD actually unleashed these things, them covering their asses and saying they're investigating them after they began appearing, and have the only tech capable of stopping them, alongside the Rouse card system to make use of their power. Tachibana, however, is irritated that they sent in Kanzaki, who even by Kanzaki's own admission is incompetent due to him not being at this long, to rescue him, and only served as a hindrance in the fight as opposed to an asset. BORD in and of themselves are researchers into how humanity has remained the dominant species on Earth, feeling the theory of evolution is half-baked at best, and have another theory behind it. Said theory being that something is asserting humanity's dominance, as opposed to it possibly being our capabilities as tool users allowing us to more easily adapt to any environment upon the planet, whereas other animals and such have to become more specialized to survive. Anyways, Kanzaki gets thrown out of his apartment as he hasn't actually paid up for it, but this is where Shirai comes in to offer him a place to stay, in exchange for allowing him the scoop on the whole undead mess, with the caveat that Shirai will willingly forego release of the info until he's given the okay by them. Kanzaki agrees, with this segueing over to Shirai meeting with his sister Haruka and Nisamane to tell them the good news of his new project, Haruka running a cafe, who has a shy photographer lodger, calling himself Hajime Aikawa, And he also has a stake in this, as revealed with his reaction to a certain name.
Kamen. Rider.
Pants to be darkened. We cut back to Kanzaki as he has a nightmare of when he lost his parents. And while it's sloppy, it quickly clues us into his own character motivations. That his own personal loss in a tragedy has given him the resolve of never wanting to see that happen again.
人類と地球を守るためか。
Which makes him put his all into helping who he can, even if he might be bad at it. While it's vanilla, as I've said about him, it clearly defines him in not wanting to stray from others. He gets a call that the board researchers have been attacked, us seeing flashes of locusts assaulting the workers, them all forming into a single body, with the sole survivor of the attack being Shiori Hirose, one of the support personnel Kanzaki works with, and are telling him that she suspects Tachibana might be involved in this attack. And as this is literally the first episode where they hit us with all of this, we have no foundation for anything to have an opinion of that. It's just hammering us with far too much stuff far too fast that we're always just left reacting. But still, Blade can't dwell on that, though he later does, as he has to fight the undead off.
Time up.
As the fight's done with too fast to really allow me to do anything over it, and really the poor pacing is a constant problem in the early side of the series with how fast and chaotic a lot of this is, instead of being appropriately choreographed, let me just say that I'm really appreciative of the Blade suits. They're a good mix of minimalist and detailed, the minimalist areas of the suits having just enough detailing to make each part stand out, with the intricate detailing left to mainly the helmet, and where they would more need to accent the contrast in colors or to break up a monotonous aspect. It's very well balanced. Blade's motif, if you couldn't get from the ceiling, is all about playing cards. The writers through the series playing 52 pickup, with each of the powers aligned with the normally expected playing card suits. Blade using the spade-aligned cards, Garen diamond cards, with the hearts and clubs open for the later introduced riders. With each of the undead they fight matching a card class. The bat they fought earlier being a Category 8 diamond class, and the locust they're now facing being Category 5 spade class. The category system's not exactly explained with regards to how they're all classed, as outside of the Jack, Queen, and King related undead, there's not much of a power hierarchy. But as he fights, he sees Garen waiting, speaking the line that launched 1,000 laughs. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Internet Meme! Still, why are we supposed to care? Nothing about Tachibana's character has been established. We've spent the entire episode following Kanzaki. Kanzaki has a response to it. We have no context to why this is so harmful, as Tachibana didn't seem to think much of him. Hell, from what we do know about Karen's objections over interference, it could just as much be inferred he believes they need to be able to fight their own battles. Thus, thought Kanzaki had priority in the fight as he does need the experience. Hell, in this fight, he almost lost, only getting a chance at the win by using one of his Rouse cards as a temporary power-up. While we saw this before with Ryuki's Advent cards, I vastly prefer Blade's use of them. Each of the cards, once empowered by an undead sealed within them, give a unique thematic power-up that augment each rider's base abilities. They are stored in a means more accessible, can be slotted more quickly, and these powers are far more versatile. It's just getting them in the first place that is the problem, and ultimate end goal of the show necessary to stop the undead threat. Honestly, it ties it all together very well. Unfortunately, few of the power-ups the cards enable are ever seen used in the show, meaning while they are a versatile power set, the writer's use of them fails to showcase that. Shiori gets one of their surveillance systems back up long enough to see that Tachibana appears to have kidnapped one of the other researchers, named Karasuma, which is Kanzaki beginning to complain about how despite working for Board for some time, no one appears to be telling him anything about what's going on.
教えてくれよアンデッドはどっから来たんだ俺は何のために戦ってたんだよ
What am I fighting for?
Seriously, everything Kanzaki says is just begging for meme status. Still, I like and am annoyed by this. I like that Kanzaki's actually bothering to think and ask questions so he can be a better informed fighter and avoid stupid conflicts just like what seems to have happened from this whole specific situation, and which was a major issue part of the last 3 writer series before it, where the characters either didn't ask questions when they should have, or the answers only ever got teased until it was far too late to matter. On the other hand, well, it's clear Kanzaki's been involved in the undead mess for quite some time now, and yet has yet to get a straight answer. Since the show opened in media res, relative to the prior 3 shows, this would have likely been around episode 10, episode 12 in a normal series. Ergo, long after he should have known even basic details important to him doing his job. And really, them opening this in media res is the problem, as these episodes were not written as if they were the debut episodes of a series, but something happening after it hit double digits. Thus, it's relying on character connections we don't have, and details we don't have insight into, and that hurts it a lot as it gives a higher barrier of entry to getting us involved and invested. It's why Kamen Rider Double and Build gave us the audience surrogate to get us up to speed on everything, why writer protagonists becoming involved in an ongoing conflict like Gentaro and Force, Shinosuke and Drive, and Emu and X8 had an immediate, more informed companion to help get them set up in writer-hero duties. It gives context to what the hell is going on as part and parcel to a good narrative construction that gets an audience on board. Once again, why Neo Heisei Kamen Rider, with exception to Ghost, Amazons, and in some people's opinion Wizard, storytelling-wise has been the best era of Kamen Rider, even with how toyetic they get. Hell, Fies legitimately got away with us not having a full grasp to what was going on because the characters themselves were thrust into the situation completely blind and didn't know anything, as we were limited to their viewpoint and their responses, and what we learned through them was better related. But shoving everything in at once is just going to leave a viewer confused and not be able to make full sense of what's presented, as they don't have the context to why all of these things matter. A week passes. Shiori also setting up equipment in Shirai's place due to the wrecked state of the board labs. There's no way all aboard has been eliminated in one attack. Where the hell is everyone else? Well, Kanzaki is still stuck on Tachibana's betrayal and how much it hurt him, and how much he hates how naive he is to constantly be tricked by people he thought he could trust. Well, this isn't the first time he's gone through that.
アマちゃんで自分がすごく嫌になる100回人を裏切ったやつより100回裏切られてバカを見た人間の方が僕は好きだな
Fair point, and I like how he's aware of his character flaw and desires to correct it. Not give up his trust in people, but be more skeptical so he's not blindsided or duped by those clearly not trustworthy, which is legitimately the bad part of naivete. It thus shows Kanzaki as not being an idiot protagonist as I so despise, as he actually does think and reflect on his actions. Nor is he made automatically right just because. At the end of the day, he's a flawed but really relatable character. Shiori, however, has set up their undead tracker network, getting a large response from one, which we're shown uses fines to slaughter a group out at an observatory. Shiori having to snap Kanzaki out of his blue screen to remind him to do his job. The cinematography of this show really is just terrible. However, he's not the only one on his way. Hajime overhears news of the attack, and Haruka's daughter Amane having gone up there. Thus, as Blade confronts the plant undead, having flashes of his parents' death all along, he gets some backup, from another warrior. Chalice is our heart suit rider and is themed after a mantis, but uses a rouse system that wasn't created by a board, in fact knowing the language the undead speak as well, fighting them with a bladed bow. Which anyone that knows me should know I think is awesome. I am so gonna have to mod my Gashikon Sparrow. He saves Amane from it, thus establishing his good guy credentials for the audience, while leaving Kanzaki with a mystery of who he is and his own connections to all of this. Kanzaki and Shirai try to get details on this third rider, only for elaboration to be given coincidentally on Hajime, how he appeared out of the blue before Haruka 6 months ago, and was taken in by them, over time the three coming to be as close as family, even as Hajime himself doesn't understand the concept or why he rushed to save her as he did. Because he is an undead himself. Thus his desire to kill and fight should be the same as theirs. As they muse on this turn, Kanzaki encounters the plant undead again, and though he's beaten badly, he's not going to let his own hesitations and insecurities hold him back anymore. Though that is immediately undermined in how Chalice comes in, punches him out, and finishes the undead himself. But still, Blade being a nice guy, tries to offer an open hand. As I've said, the idiotic inter-rider conflicts like this would be a thing for post-Ryuki pre-double series, and be seen as a hindrance to almost all of them, as the franchise's most egregious sin. But again, they're all better than Ryuki did it, as at least Hajime has a legitimate reason to want to stay isolated, as he actually is their enemy by the very nature of him being an undead. As is revealed later and ties into that evolution as a half-assed theory plot point, if one undead remains standing after all others are sealed, everything on the planet dies, so the race that undead belongs to can then be the new inheritors of the planet. The last time the undead got released, the human undead won the entire thing, thus allowing their stake at dominance, but Chalice is not the human undead. So if humanity wants to survive, then Hajime Aikawa, Kamen Rider Chalice, truly is an enemy to that sought salvation, with the only reason he's fighting for humanity now being the kindness he's been shown by them, thus wanting to encourage humanity's actual protectors to fear and hate him, so they won't have any qualms about taking him down if it comes to it, and that is actually a good decision and understandable series of actions on his part that all better inform what he does here instead of harming it. Taking this on its own without that knowledge, however, is not endearing, and makes it seem as if he's being an outright asshole that initially wasn't a credit to the show, but a detractor, and that only changed in hindsight. Shiori, however, managed to make contact with Karasuma. How? By finding his brainwaves. Brainwaves do not work that way! The hell is Shoji am I on? And the shocking revelation that is Shiori trembling and then playing suspenseful music while somehow projecting a hologram of him? He's in a coma. My god! Wait, what? That's it? You set this whole scene up when you could have just had, I don't know, Shiori contact him from a hospital that had him admitted after she looked up and found him? Why is this dramatic episode-ending twist? But yeah, that was the first 2 episodes of the show, and of its entire run, those were the 2 highest rated, with the series then losing a large amount of its audience almost immediately. And as I said, it's easy to see why. These are not series opening episodes. This is a mid-season subplot. It's nearly impossible to get someone on board a show like that if they don't have the beginning of show framework to work off of. Shows that have tried this over time have constantly been shown to struggle with viewers as they don't have an idea of what's going on. We aren't getting attached to the characters, their actions at tech level seem suspect, Board's barely there before it's gone, and the Chalice focus while sidelining Garen has ever since instigated an argument among the fandom of who the true secondary writer of the show is, as more emphasis and importance has been placed on the third character appearing, while the second isn't given spotlight until later. It is frankly a horrible introductory arc as it failed to do what it needed to hook people onto the show. Episode 3 at the very least tries to start elaborating on things, very badly, as Shuri tries to hack where that data is coming from and fails. Tachibana revealed to have hooked Karasuma up to life support in hopes of eventually getting information from him. Then it being revealed that Tachibana took him because Tachibana is dying from a disease that is in fact all the fault of Karasuma. Shuri tries to figure out the password that'll get her back into the system, Shirai having data he thinks should help, which makes zero sense as he's a goddamn reporter with no insider information, thus shouldn't be able to help in that form versus those who actually worked for the company. Seriously, what is with that narrative cop-out? Hajime is shown having bond time with Ayame and Haruka. Haruka happy that he's managed to take Ayame's attention off her missing father, who Hajime is revealed to have come across as he lay dying, and directed him to them to pass a final message. It's assumed he did, but why he stuck around isn't quite said. Tachibana visits a friend of his, named Sayako, about his condition, allowing us to learn his coming death is a result of experiments done on him by Karasuma. He was the one that was betrayed, used by them for their own gains, and he's reaping the sins of Karasuma and his associates. The reason he abducted him when he was given the chance, all being in the hopes that he could force Karasuma to come up with a way to cure him after Board kept dangling that goal in front of him. Only to make it clear to him, they intended to replace him with Kanzaki. Both Karasuma's comatose states, Tachibana's facing a ticking clock. Shirai, meanwhile, figures out the password to Karasuma's system.
間違いないわ。パスワードはダブルジョーカー。
ダブルジョーカー?
I don't have to say anything, do I? Actually, that phrase ends up being astoundingly good foreshadowing for the series' eventual endgame, despite Shoji Yamai leaving the show permanently in the 20s. While they managed to make the connection again, this has distracted them from the threat of the day, the deer undead attacking the dam, their communication with him intercut with Garen taking care of it. This is where we get the big info dump about the undead, a race of 53 creature-themed monsters first appearing 10,000 years ago, created by something that was effectively a god. How many god entities have we had in here now? The Overlords of Darkness and Light and the Creation King are kind of mutually exclusive, not inclusive to all of this. Which is why, again, they decided to keep the writer shows isolated during the Heisei run until the Decade timeline crunch. But this god had all of them fight for their own thematically related racist supremacy. The human undead won, while the others were locked up. But 3 years ago, Shiori's dad found their resting place and undid the seal in a fit of madness, unleashing this threat. But from details found in the tomb, they were able to backwards engineer the sealing system as part of their rider system, with Tachibana being who helped develop it. But they've thus far only made 2, trying to get the users immediately, and Shirai asking why they didn't find someone better.
でもスカウトするならもっと優秀な人間を。すいません。余計なことでした。
Again, not doing it intentionally, or at least apologetic for being an unintentional asshole. The reason is actually made clear later. Kanzaki has a natural synchronicity with the gear, which can improve its use, though the origin of why that is never explained. So while Kanzaki's crap at his job right now, once he gets experience he can use it more effectively than any of the others. Tachibana, however, is having a just horrible time with the deer. Even once Blade comes to back him up, Kanzaki not taking over an answer this time, even then they don't have a good time at this at all. Chalice noting the difficulty they keep having.
スがある。その時奴の力を全開する。か。
Tachibana collapses, Kenzaki directing his accusations at him, with Tachibana refusing to answer him as he feels it's none of his business to get involved, at least until Kenzaki accuses him of unsealing the undead, which is where he reveals that Karasuma and Hirose did it. They are just cleaning up their mistakes. They are forced to take responsibility for their sins, finally revealing he's dying because of how horribly they made the prototype Garen, and Kenzaki may eventually have the same thing happen to him, taking the steam out of Kenzaki's rage. Tachibana never betrayed him. It was bored itself. Again, I like this in the presentation. It's avoiding the problem of the prior years in that everyone has a legitimate explanation and reason for acting how they are, and acknowledging how Kenzaki is mistaken in his assumption. Really, it expands his character flaw and how he jumps to conclusions and actions when he doesn't have all the info. He's aware of that flaw as well, but still falls for it when he hasn't been given what he needs to be informed despite wanting to be. Back at Haruka's cafe, some sparkling effect occurs, pollen, spores, which sets all of Hajime's photographs on fire, shocking the Kuriharas and alluding to another undead having found him. The new details are mulled over, Shiori not wanting to accept it, as it incriminates her father as Karasuma's companion, leading to a shouting match between them, and my god, is this a terrible actress. Shirai actually having to talk them down from their stances. Shirai gets a call from Amane about the melted pictures, Hajime saying when they meet that he will take care of it, as Haruka muses on how many bad things seem to keep involving them. Shiori comes to one of her father's old research labs, finding Tachibana and Karasuma there, learning the only thing keeping him alive are the machines he's hooked to. Turns out Tachibana didn't put him in this condition, but the Locust Undead did. He tried to fight it alone, but some of its insects escaped his initial purge of their environment, leading to the board attack. The attack they saw was him escaping with Karasuma, who wanted them to keep fighting it to death, but Tachibana needed him alive in order to somehow fix him. Though clearly that is not going well. Hajime finds the moth undead as the others are alerted to it, leading to yet another awfully choreographed series of battles. Seriously, the fights in this show early on are absolutely wretched due to this stupid stylization, where they intercut for short half-seconds and then cut back to the same goddamn fight, which always causes continuity errors. Still, Kenzaki seems to have taken Hajime's early words to heart, and agrees to fight him as it should be. A human attempting to seal an undead. However, as Shiori comes back for Karasuma, his body inexplicably bursts into flames. As she's left with the remains of the corpse, though, Shiori realizes the reason for why her father might have released the undead, in an attempt to unlock the keys to immortality to save her then terminally ill mother. Clearly didn't work, and is an extremely hand-waved reveal, once again informing how bad the series is with its setup exposition, as it's once again given in the terms that this is something we already would have known of if we watched earlier episodes that were never made. But the corpse is in fact revealed to be a decoy. The real Karasuma was never there, sending Tachibana off to try and figure out where he went. Amane, wanting to hear her father's voice again in spite of his death, tries to get Haruka, or anyone really, to go to a superstitious place known as the Whistling Cave. Despite them trying to discredit the place as just a place where wind produces sounds from passing through it, she keeps insisting, eventually conning Shirai and Kenzaki into escorting her there. However, the place is home to the Centipede Undead, which looks like something straight out of Garo. And yes, I know the suit designer for the series was the late Yasushi Nirasawa, who did the same for Garo in the following year, The Worms in Kabuto, Imaging in Den-O, and Gokaiger years down the line. But the modus operandi of this guy just increases the quality of the illusion. Amane is hit with its poison, and despite getting her to a hospital much faster than earlier victims who died, she will still die if they can't get a sample of the poison to make an antibody out of it, which they are informed of by Hajime, who knows that presumably because he's had to treat himself of it before as an undead. But they learn Garen's fighting it, and if he seals it, they lose their chance entirely to save her. This is again a better execution of inter-rider conflict, Kenzaki figuring out Chalice's identity from this, and his efforts to get the antibody a noble act, that just happens to bring the riders briefly into conflict over a more direct goal, and an interim goal complicating the monster's easy defeat and sealing, with Kenzaki having to stop Garen from interfering, which he does until he starts to panic once more over his declining health. Garen's pissed they attacked him, feeling betrayed himself at them screwing with their mission, and not caring for the interim reasons, his own mortality the foremost thing on his mind. Kenzaki returns to the hospital after Chalice makes his exit, learning from Shirai that Hajime delivered the antibody to save her, making him confront Hajime about being Chalice. My god, so many memes. Like, Kenzaki screwing up his lines is his big one, Tachibana's physical pratfalls and battle damage becomes his, but Hajime? By aura, does Hajime make the weirdest of facial expressions? A Sentai fan's face when they hear someone say their favorite entry in the best overall is Q Ranger. And yeah, Hajime denies everything, just wanting to be left alone. Shiori, as she's musing on what role her father could have had in unsealing the undead, sees Karasuma in the street, making to follow him, as Tachibana continues to hallucinate everyone turning on him. Sayako concerned over how he's starting to lose himself, asking that he stay with her. But Sayako in turn encounters Karasuma, who passes on that, yeah, no, the writer system and the mortality Tachibana is faced with, it's actually all in his head. The board writer system has a mental component to it, which is required for the physical enhancement and synchronicity with the undead rouse system to take effect. Thus, if the user possesses indecisiveness or other forms of hesitation, it can result in a dangerous feedback loop that lashes back on the user. Thus, Tachibana is dying and has physical symptoms inferring a coming death, only because he believes wrongly that the gear is causing him to become ill, and thus that belief is actually causing him to become ill. So, how did he come to the determination in the first place? We know they experimented on him to even get the thing to work. That's the basis behind his thoughts on this, which they are responsible for. He had to have some kind of symptom for him to even start thinking he would be dying for that to even start up. It can't be a chicken and egg kind of scenario, it should be causal. So basically all he needs to cure himself is to get over his fear. Unfortunately, he can't tell him himself, as he's being chased by people in black, who also happen to be stalking the others. Okay, has someone gifted that? I swear, I hate a lot of the cinematography for the series due to the lens flare and cutting, but damn is a lot of its imagery not just meme-worthy. This culminates in Kenzaki being abducted by men in black, and a man in a limo coming to Tachibana, asking for his assistance by using Matrix-tier wire foo. Oh yes, he floats. They all float! What? It was either that or referencing M-Bias and superconductor electromagnetism. And I think the reviewer's references Raul Julia often enough. This is Isaka, the peacock undead who's taken human form, and he kicks Tachibana's ass. And you know, I'd give this show credit for doing a lot of nighttime shoots for this, kinda like Fies did a lot of them in familiar locations, but the consistent problem that keeps screwing them over is nearly every single one of them is ruined by the fucking lens flare. Seriously, how hard is it to shoot your scenes so your camera shot is not made in the same direction as the light you have illuminating the scene? Kuga didn't have this problem, Agito didn't have this problem, Ryuki didn't have this problem, and Fies didn't have this problem. And yet, in this series, it is at minimum in one goddamn scene in every episode, if not most scenes. What the hell?